Oh, that's right. We are back here this morning, and this morning it is my great honor to have on the show with me this morning is Sheriff Tony Davis. Sheriff Tony Davis, how you doing here this morning? You like this chilly weather?
I love this chilly weather. I'm anti-cold. I love the beach. The warm sunshine.
Yeah. A pair of sunglasses, right?
A pair of sunglasses.
There you go. Yeah, it is nice. But, somehow, have you ever had Christmas at the beach?
Actually, we're going down for New Year's. I haven't had Christmas at the beach, but we're going down for New Year's. New Year's Eve and New Year's Day.
Yeah.
So we're back and enjoy the atmosphere down there.
Right, I think so. But, to me, particularly being from Maine originally, I can't imagine having a hot Christmas. I like a little chill in the air. I mean, a little Christmas spirit here, I think. Yeah?
Yeah, it's been, for the last quite a few years now, it's been quite chilly at Christmas time. And, I guess that's one of the elements of Christmas around this part of the country is that I guess that's why it's in December.
Absolutely, it is. Well, we wanted to have you on to talk about several different things. Number one, we have had so many murders this year. Tony, what do you think? What is happening out there? I mean, it's actually kind of frightening. I have never been a scared person here in Greenwood, but I have had a little pause when I walk out the door late at night and things like that.
And truly, I can understand that, and we have had a much higher number than what we normally have. We have had 17 murders in Greenwood County this year. At least 6 of them have been domestic related, and of course, along with that 6, there's a suicide that goes along with it. So I guess you could say 7 deaths have been contributed to domestic violence. The others, arguments, robbery, acquaintances, knowing one another and arguing and so forth. So it has been uncommon. Never, to my knowledge, and I've been doing this since 1975, have I known Greenwood County to have this many. But it seems to be something that's going on, not just in Greenwood County, it's statewide and probably throughout the whole country.
Well, just take that event that happened in Colorado with the kid walking through the door and shooting. I mean, we have just, and then this is, of course, 1-year anniversary of Newtown. And it just seems like people would be taking some second thoughts about pulling out a firearm, but we don't seem to be there.
We're not, and some of these firearms, too many of them are in the hands of the wrong individuals. How did they get them? Well, I would tell you that a lot of these firearms are coming from burglaries, coming from vehicles being broken into, in which individuals or people or victims don't have the serial number or the model number or the caliber. They can tell you their weapon is stolen, but they can't give you any more identification. And if we find it, we can't say where it came from or basically how the individual got it. But that happened. We have recovered pistols from as far away as Arizona, as far away as California, as far away as Chicago. So how they get down here, I don't know.
Well, these are things that are very, I think, troubling, and things that I never thought in, I'll use the term, sleepy little Greenwood, where you used to be able to leave your doors unlocked and not have to worry about anything, that we would come to some of the ends that we're at now.
You're 100% correct, and a lot of the stuff that law enforcement can only, in law enforcement we try to teach to be proactive while you're out here on patrol. But so many times we have to be reactive because a 911 call comes in, you have to react to it, and a lot of times those are your domestic calls, those are your burglaries, those are your auto break-ins. But you still try to be proactive, but unfortunately at times you become reactive.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, we are here with Sheriff Tony Davis. If you have a question, give us a call, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. We're going to hear a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Don't you go away. That's right. We're right back here with Sheriff Tony Davis, just talking about some of the things in the last, and this has really been, this last quarter, Tony, has been where it seems that a lot of things. Do you think the economy and the stresses of our economy, or lack of jobs, or this type of thing, is making any difference?
I think you can attribute some of these matters to depression, to the unemployment rate, through values, through morals, through, there's probably a number of factors, and there's no particular factor that's causing any of these problems we're having.
But you brought up an interesting one on morals. What are you seeing you see people day in, or you and your staff do, people coming through those doors of the police and the sheriff's office and everything. What do you think is happening? You brought up morals.
It seems like that, I may be getting off the subject just a little bit, but it seems like so many folks that we're dealing with does not have a conscience. They just don't seem to care. And, what contributes to them not caring? I don't know. Is it hopelessness? Is it the lack of education? Is it the lack of jobs? I don't know. I wish we did know some of these answers, and maybe we could, prevent some of this criminal activity that's going on in the streets.
But it makes it tough, doesn't it?
It really does.
And it has to be tough on all the officers and sheriffs and everything across anybody that's working with this. But when you have boom, 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 as we did so quickly, this had to have been tough for the police and the sheriff's office.
It has been a tough year, and but like I said a moment ago, when we go to a crime scene, we have to get it right to the best of our ability. We have to get it right. A lot of times we do call in the SLID forensic team to come and process a crime scene, but like I said, you only get one chance to get it right, and that's why it takes us as long as it does sometimes.
Yeah. So, but do they do anything for the officers? Do we have any grief counseling or whatever we would call this type of counseling for the officers?
We do. We've had officer-involved shootings in which we call the counselors in, and they met with the guys. And we've also had, for example, the incident we had on the Calvin Highway recently, just a couple of days later, we had some grief counselors come in, and I had a whole group. I had the EMTs, I had the dispatchers that were involved in taking that call. I had the officers that were on the scene. We even had the coroner's office come in, and grief counselors met with them from about that morning till well after lunch. So grief counselors most of the time don't want supervisors there.
Right.
They want the people there to open up and talk about their true feelings. So we set it up, and we pretty much left so grief counselors could deal with it.
I know that seeing you on TV and hearing what some of your comments were, that it bothered you a lot to be in that situation.
It does, and it still bothers me until today, and will bother me throughout my life. It's such a sad situation. So it was so uncalled for. It was just so, I don't know. It was touching. It was hard, and it wasn't just me. It was all the officers that were down there and what they experienced. And you never want to experience anything like that again in your life. I hope nobody has to experience it, but unfortunately, just like we mentioned a few minutes ago, there was just a recent school shooting in Colorado.
Sure.
And we had the situation up in Connecticut. You just don't want to see that.
Absolutely. And I guess that, that brings us to our schools here. This last year that y'all have made some advances. I know that you tried to set up a buddy system with your sheriffs and the different schools around. How has that gone this year?
Well, one thing that we do, we have a good working relationship with District 50. I have 6 school resource officers, and they're in the high schools and the middle schools, but they're also responsible for going to the elementary schools and checking on them. We also, hopefully, it'll never happen, but we try to train in case for a situation if someone does come on campus.
Sure.
with a weapon and threatening the kids and so forth. We try to train for that. I was working in law enforcement when we had the situation at Oakland School, which I think is Eleanor Wright School now. However, that occurred in the city, and the city was first officers to respond to it, but we did go there, and I remember seeing the blood. I remember seeing the bandages, and I knew pretty much what went on. it's not, it's not a pretty sight. It's really not. And like I said, it's something that affects your lifetime.
It does. And, I have talked to national people. We were talking about, of course, Jamie Wilson, the Oakland school thing. And, that was back in the day before we had the internet and computers and everything. And so many people, when I brought it up, go, really? You had something like that right here in Greenwood? Yeah.
One of the first.
We did. And yet, it's not something today. It's like something happens right here today. By this afternoon, it's going to be everywhere.
Oh, sometimes sometimes it's not that. It doesn't take that long. It's almost instantly. Just as soon as an incident happens, the media, local media here has it, and when they put it on the wires, the national media gets it, and
Sure.
they come in droves. But I understand that's their job, and we try to keep them informed the best we can with what's going on, and they realize too that a lot of times we don't know we don't know all the details, and we're still looking into it, trying to find this or that out. But we try to tell them what we can when we can.
Sure. But I mean, I personally, I think it has something to somebody seeing something on the internet, seeing it on the news, and then they go, wow, that's an interesting idea. I think I'll try something like that. Yes, the copycats. And I think that is part of it, and it just is frightening. Every time you see something, you wish you could just have it a lovely day in Greenwood and protect our area, but that would be unreasonable.
Well, I would tell you, when you say protect area, I would tell you that I've got a lot of good guys at the Sheriff's Office, very committed and dedicated to getting the job done and serving the citizens of Greenwood County. I think the city police also has that, and we work closely together, and we have good rapport with with wear shows, with 96, with Highway Patrol, with DNR. I think we've got some good law enforcement in Greenwood County, and I think we're very committed to trying to get the job done and get it done right.
Absolutely. But it would make your job a lot easier if we didn't have these copycats seeing things on the internet. Oh, you'd be bored. Okay, Tony.
I don't mind the boredom in situations like that.
You just have to do more training and whatnot. Yeah, I can remember when you were doing your manual and everything for when you first took office. You've kind of moved on, haven't you? Here?
Yeah, we still work on that every once in a while. You put something down and they say, well, I didn't quite word that right, or this happens or that happens, so you have to alter it a little bit or amend it. But yeah, we've got that in place.
So, but other things going on. You were telling us about some of your sheriffs are going out to go shopping with some kids for Christmas here.
Right. We're going to do something that we're calling Shop with a Cop. And I must say, I have to thank Emerald Baptist Church. They have contributed this and helped us. And we're going to have, we're going to take 5 officers who's going to have 5 children from the community. And they're going to take them shopping out at, I think it's going to be Walmart. And these are children that in the community that are somewhat needy. And we're going to let the children pick out what they want. And I've got $135 per child to spend on them. So
That's great.
hopefully it'll give the kids a positive image of law enforcement, and plus give them some items that they want for Christmas.
Well, whatever project you work with, this sounds great. But they're the Toys for Tots, the Salvation Army, the Angel Trees. All of these projects are all centered around making sure our children have a little happiness here at the holidays.
And the things you hear, Christmas is the most depressing time of the year. That's when you have supposedly you have more suicides and so forth. We have, actually throughout the year, we've got a number of attempted suicides, and we have had some. So you ask yourself, what contributes to this? What causes this? And I know that you don't know what goes on in someone's mind, and I know that you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But I wish I had an answer. I really did.
Well, I think one thing we all wish is that people would be able to see the joy in the holidays.
Yes, and the reason for the season.
Yes, exactly. And so, to put the two together, I think is a marvelous thing, to have the holidays, to have good food and good...
friends, family,
exactly.
and everybody get along.
And everybody get along. Well, therein lies the problem.
Therein lies the problem.
That's right. Well, we are here with Sheriff Tony Davis. Coming up in less than a minute is going to be South Carolina Radio News. We're going to hear what they have to say. When we come back, we're going to be talking about No Shave November, and we're going to be talking about some of the other things that the Sheriff's Office is dealing with. So don't you go away. If you've got a question for Sheriff Tony Davis, don't hesitate to pick up that phone, 229-7984. That's 229-7984. We'll be back after the news.
Arg, are you a pirate or a pack rat? Do you have a vacation of a lifetime sitting in the attic? Or a college tuition hung on a wall? Or is a fabulous retirement hidden in your jewelry box? Bring those items to Sharp Facets Gallery. We can establish value and buy from you or sell for you. And so ends another chapter at Sharp Facets Gallery, 72 Bypass, and on the web, sharpfacets.com.
Oh, that's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery. Today we're talking with Sheriff Tony Davis. You know, one of the issues that you and I were just talking about is staffing. That's a big one, isn't it?
You know, I want, for the Sheriff's Office, I want quality, not quantity. And, you know, we look for applications and stuff. We look for good people that is truly committed to doing law enforcement. But yeah, you're right. Staffing is an issue, but training is a bigger issue. You know, we can find the people. It's just that getting them into the academy has become an issue.
Is that because they're so backed up, or because of funding out of the state,
no,
or
backed up?
Backed up.
I've got one officer that's scheduled to go to the academy in June. I've got another that's scheduled to go in March of this year, of next year. And then I've got one that's going in January of next year. And upon them going, that's 12 weeks at the academy, and then come back. That's 12 weeks on our training program. So, and that's 6 months basically that you're not getting anything out of anybody as far as being on the road by themselves.
I guess one of the other issues would be, do they have any opportunity before they go to the academy, before any of this, to actually work with y'all, or can they ride in a car or this type of thing?
Once we hire someone, you know, you can't. I can hire them for the jail.
Mm-hmm.
They can work in the jail until we have an opportunity to send them to the police academy, or South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, and I began taking some of the officers, detention officers, who have, you know, who has shown through his work ethic or her work ethic that they're very qualified and you know, able to do the job. So I have been taking some of those and from the detention center and sending them to the academy to become deputies. You know, you got some agencies like City Police, for example. You know, they don't operate the jail, so anybody they hire, they have to send them to the academy.
So they can't work alongside and then get qualified, saying this is what I really want. So I guess the point is, you could get somebody all this training and then find out that maybe they find out, or maybe you find out, either side of the coin here, that this really isn't their cup of tea.
You are correct. You are correct.
That's a taxpayer issue, isn't it?
It's a taxpayer issue, and it may not be their cup of tea, and that individual may not be my cup of tea.
Exactly.
Because of performance. But yeah, that's an issue that's plaguing us right now.
And I guess that would be plaguing every police and sheriff's department across the state.
It is. You know, I understand that they are that the Highway Patrol is going to have a class in January, and I've been told, and I don't know how true this is, that some agencies in other counties have hired a number of school resource officers, and they're filling the academy openings up, and so we're sitting on hold. We're waiting to get our officers in.
Well, so that slows things down. So as you move forward here, things that you think that Greenwood needs as far as from a sheriff or police department issues, what do you think that we need here?
Well, I think that truthfully, I think we have good law enforcement. Would you like to have more manpower? Certainly. More manpower means more taxpayer dollars, and I think our folks are already taxed enough. But I would like to have some more manpower. Do I think I'll get it? Probably not. But it would be nice. It would help cut my response time down. It would also give me more visibility in the community, and I think visibility is a big deterrent when it comes to crime. You know, most people don't commit crimes in front of law enforcement officers. They commit
Not
crimes,
likely.
They commit crimes under the cover of darkness, for the most part. So it would be nice to have more
Well,
officers
and
on
how
the
many
streets.
people are actually in the sheriff's office? How many people do you have on duty, like during the day and the night? It's
Well,
less?
during the night, I have currently 7 officers per shift. I also have some narcotic officers that work at night, and I usually have an investigator that's on call at night. So on a minimum of 7 for the most part, a maximum of 15, 16.
I mean, during the day, though, do you have more during the day?
During the day, yes, we have more because, you know, you've got a lot of your supervisors out for, like, for example, uniform patrol, community services, your school resource officers, your investigators, your personnel that serves paperwork out of the family court or magistrate's office. So you got more people out during the day than you do at night.
Sure. And as you know, one of the things that I notice in the newspaper is the number of drug arrests. I mean, whether it is city or county, I mean, drugs just seem to be rampant. Anything that you can tell us about that, Tony?
I can tell you that when I first started in 1975, marijuana was the big issue. I thought it was the worst drug on the streets. Well,
And now it's legal in some states.
In
What
some
the
states, yeah.
heck is going on here?
And then in the 80s came cocaine. However, marijuana didn't go away.
Mhm.
The cocaine came and it became epidemic, and then we had crack. Well, cocaine did not go away, neither did marijuana. Well, along came meth, methamphetamine, crystal as they call it, crystal meth as some call it. So now we've got meth, we've got crack, we've got cocaine, we've got marijuana, and we've got pills, and we've got alcohol. Pills probably are being abused as much as any other drugs out there on the street. They're getting them legally from prescriptions and so forth. However, not all folks are taking them as prescribed. Some are selling them.
Sure.
Like I said, methamphetamine is plentiful. People are making it in their homes, in motel rooms, in their vehicles, wherever. In open spaces, in the woods, in sheds behind their house. It's plentiful.
Sounds like moonshine days, doesn't
Sound
it?
like the old moonshine days. So that's a big issue, and the addiction rate that this meth has, and what it does to an individual.
Well, what about from the sheriff's perspective? Because you see it every day. I mean, my God, is there anybody left out there still doing it? It seems like you guys have arrested everybody out there.
We have arrested quite a few, and like I said, our court docket is backed up. It would be nice if we could get if the court system moved a little quicker, but you know I understand why it don't. You know, you don't have court every day. If you have a jury trial, let's say we'll have out of 6 weeks we'll have court 2 weeks pretty much, and if you have a jury trial, then that takes up 2 or 3 of your days, so that limits your numbers. Seems to me that the judges like to take a lot of time off also.
Well, I think some of that comes from the state as far as the dollars that are put out there for the judges and everything, and that has made really from a criminal aspect, we really need the state both for prisons and for the judges, and this type of thing is where one of the things needs to be addressed.
Well, there's no doubt that the prison system is crowded. I have probably right now close to 200 individuals in our jail. I have tried to work closely with the magistrate's office and the municipal judges for minor offenses or nonviolent offenses. You know, that's costing me about $45 a day to house someone. Let's give them a court, let's let them out and give them a court date and you know deal with it later. But
They have started doing magistrate court more, haven't they, in order to release them even at night or having them on call or
yeah.
something? What are we
Well,
doing there?
Basically, what they're doing, we have criminal court about once a week. Of course, you got traffic court, you got domestic violence court, you got check court. So,
You got a lot of courts.
And then you got civil matters that courts deal with. But you know, they stay busy. However, the judges seem to be working with us somewhat. Like I said, it seems like most everybody, not most everybody, quite a few that comes to jail, when they're on the streets, nothing's wrong with them. But when they come to jail, they got they're sick, lame, and lazy, got every disease known to man. And
Is that called taking advantage of the system?
It certainly is.
Yes.
And if you take this individual down to the doctor, and we have a nurse on duty back there, if we take this individual down to the doctor and he's admitted, then I have to have somebody stay with him at the hospital 24/7, which means I have to call in someone to work overtime, which ends up costing taxpayers more money. I had one individual that if, according to the nurse, if he had stayed in jail for a year with us at the county jail, he would have cost us over $500,000 for his medication.
Wow.
So
And that's not a nefarious. That's the taxpayers.
right.
Yes.
Right.
And that's what we seem. I think sometimes, Tony, we think that well, that would cost $500,000. Well, but we don't think about who is that costing.
Mm-hmm.
It's costing us,
It's
the
costing
taxpayers.
taxpayers, right. If he's got a pre-existing condition, it's pretty much on him or her. But once they're in custody, it's our responsibility to provide their medication if they have to go to the doctor or somewhere. So it falls upon us.
So does that mean that that you wanted to get that individual out
I
of the?
certainly do. I certainly do. I try to get him into the prison system if we can.
But then
we're
it still
charging-
costs, doesn't it? It still costs the taxpayers.
It does,
guys,
but it's
yeah.
off of our budget up here, and like I said, the prison system has a hospital or a medical clinic, I guess we could say. We don't.
Infirmary or whatever, yeah.
We don't. We have to take them. Like I said, I have a nurse on duty back there, but if it's something that the nurse can't handle, we have to take them to the emergency room, and like I said, that ties up manpower, and it costs taxpayers more money.
Absolutely.
But you know, like I said, they won't get this treatment when they're on the streets. They'd rather roam the streets and cause problems. And then when they come to jail, they have issues.
This has also been an issue for our mentally disabled, mentally patient people that are out there on the streets that have really. This has become, I think, a really big issue. Is we don't have a place for them to go anymore.
You are correct. And their funding has been cut. And honestly, we deal with a lot of that. Individuals being arrested or being charged that has those problems, and we're not a facility to deal with that. Our officers are not trained in it. We don't have designated areas for the mentally challenged, but we do deal with it on a regular basis.
And that causes problems from the standpoint of what to do. And even the hospital now does not have the facilities that they used to have. I understand they've opened up part of their facility, but not to the extent that it was opened in the past.
They have opened up. And, I want to say they got 14 beds for people 65 and below, and I think 14 for 65 and up. But yes, that's an issue. We deal with probate. We deal with probate judge's office quite a bit on paperwork where we have to an order is signed, and we have to go pick the individual up, take them down to the hospital, have them evaluated, and then if they're committed to a facility somewhere, we have to transport them.
Sure. And because the closest one is Patrick Harris over
Patrick
there.
Harris is the closest. We have transported individuals as far as the Medical University in Charleston. And that's an issue that I just don't see it as a law enforcement issue. I think that's a medical issue, but the law says law enforcement will transport them.
So there you go.
We abide by the law.
All right. Well, we are here with Tony Davis. Hey, we'll be back in just a second. Don't you go away. That's right. We're right back here, Sharp Facets Gallery. I know one of the things, Tony, is that you started hopefully helping to have some summits. You had a breakfast summit here you want to talk about with different agencies what can be done within our community. How is that? How do you think that's going to work for getting people on board?
Well, we recently did have a summit at it, and thanks to Western Common on that. They fed us breakfast, but we had about 80 individuals show up from throughout different organizations in Greenwood County. and even some victims of domestic violence, and that's what it was, domestic violence. What I wanted was, I wanted to get law enforcement and many of the ministers in our community together. When we get domestic violence calls, we react, we respond. Sometimes, many times, we make an arrest. Sometimes there's not enough evidence there. Sometimes it's just arguing and so forth. But still, it's domestic related. I wanted their input. I wanted to know what they're seeing and what their input would be. And basically, what we wanted to do was solutions. We were looking for solutions. Now,
Sure.
we found many causes, but there wasn't many solutions that came out of our summit. However, we're working closely with the solicitor's office. Solicitor Stumbo has started what he calls a task force prosecuting domestic violence cases. Just had one over the weekend, and on Monday morning, I was called, and the victim said they wanted to drop charges. So that's
one of the biggest problems, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues that comes up.
Yeah.
One lady recently was assaulted domestically, domestic violence, and her boyfriend was arrested, and she come up and dropped charges and got him out of jail. And just recently she was assaulted again, and he was rearrested, and she's up now to drop charges again. So, but we're not dropping. We're not dropping. If the charges get dropped, it's not going to be law enforcement that drops them.
Well, yeah, and that is one of the biggest problems, right? Is that that I think women basically feel guilty.
I
I mean, that's a broad discussion. I mean, I know that's a broad point, but they feel guilty.
The man could be the breadwinner, and it's not always the man. So we've arrested women too for.
Oh, come on now,
violence.
Tony. Are there
Yes.
women out there being domestically abusive?
Sometimes we
So?
have arrested both the man and the woman. So it's not just one, but one could be the breadwinner.
Sure.
Okay, and if that person is arrested, it's possible of him losing the job, and then if he gets out of jail, custody, gets out of jail, then he comes home. Now she's in fear again. So I understand. I truly understand why somebody would want to dismiss the charges, but that's not stopping the problem. The first offense, domestic violence charge, is a 30-day penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Second offense, I think, carries up to a year. But there's some things in there. When our officers go out and we have a domestic situation, we're going to inform the victim of what her rights are. We give them a form, we explain it to them. If it's a need to be taken to Meg's house or somewhere, or a safe environment, we do that. But at the same time, there's kids. A lot of times, there's kids involved, and the kids are observing this, and how's it affecting them. So domestic violence is a big issue in Greenwood. Not just Greenwood, it's everywhere. Now, we supposedly, I think it's 2011, I think it was, we led the nation in women being killed by men. And again, most of it's domestic violence. I think every 9 seconds in the United States, a female is assaulted. Again, a lot of that's domestic violence,
Sure.
not all.
Right.
So it is a major problem.
It is. And this is this is some of the things that, of course, you are dealing with. Now, one of the things that I have seen is that the solicitor's office is definitely coming down very hard. They are prosecuting, I believe, more cases, and more, what shall we say, harsher sentences are being handed out. Is this going to, I know Solicitor Stumbo has been on the show and told me that if this proceeds like this and they are able to accomplish this, that they should cut down on the crime happening. Do you feel the same way, or what do you think, Tony?
I would say that there have been a lot of prosecutions since Solicitor Stumbo took office. Does it serve as a deterrent? You would hope that it would, but does it truthfully serve as a deterrent when let's take drugs, for example. Somebody gets a 15-year sentence or a 10-year sentence. That's a long time out of your life for fooling with drugs.
Right.
Does that really stop somebody from selling drugs? No, because they're not looking at that. They're looking at, not going to happen to me. I'm not going to get caught. They're looking at the profits. So I don't know that prison sentences are deterrent. However, it's a deterrent for that individual getting sentenced. He won't be on the streets committing any more crimes or creating any more victims.
And so therefore, but then of course it's always getting to the top of the food chain when it comes to drugs, and that of course is, I think, one of the biggest problems, isn't it? Getting to the top of the food chain.
You always try to work up the ladder, but you know, at the top of the ladder in Mexico, South America,
sure,
you know, where most of the stuff is coming from, except the meth. The meth is like I said, you can get the recipe off the internet. Why somebody would want to mix those chemicals and stuff together and put in their body, I don't know. But if they take a long, hard look at what it's doing to some of their friends,
oh my God,
that would be a deterrent enough.
Exactly. Now, what about gangs? How are we doing on the gang issue?
You know, believe it or not, we're not having. At one time, we were having some problems. However, that seems to have died down. We're not having nowhere near the issues that we were having before. We got some little individuals that, I won't say little, we got some students in schools that want to say they belong to this and they belong to that. But, you know, to me, you cut the television on and they're glorifying gang. To me, a lot of those folks on television are doing nothing but playing for the camera. But it's still making an impression on some of the ones we have around here. I think some of the lyrics in rap music has a lot to do with it. And I think suppose being part of a little crew or a so-called gang gives them a sense of ownership or belonging. But we're not having the issues between this rivalry and that rivalry that we were having at one time. It seems to have calmed down somewhat. I hope it stays that way.
Do you think that's because of the action that was taken by the sheriff's office and the police department?
I would tell you that we formed what we call the Violent Crime Task Force. And I will say, lately those guys, they have earned their keep. But we also made it aware that, you know, when we got gang-type activity, we've got somebody to concentrate on it and to look at it. Let's go after the bad guys.
Sure.
So has it been a deterrent? We think it's helping. Now, it may start up again tomorrow, but right now it has calmed.
Well, you know, and as we head into this holiday season, any issues at any of the parking lots, shoppers, any of this type of thing right here in Greenwood? Have we seen anything like that? Increased activity, I guess would be the word.
You know, I check our reports throughout the county every morning, and you know, we haven't seen an increase in any of it. However, I think it all boils down to common sense. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't leave your cars unlocked. You don't leave anything in there that's visible for someone to steal. You don't park in dark places. You know, always, when possible, shop with someone. You don't flash your cash. You know, you keep your pocketbook or your purse either in your pocket or strapped to your shoulder. You don't leave in your buggy and walk off. So no, we're not seeing an increase that I have noticed during this time of year.
Well, that's a good thing to hear. You know, you are listening to WCRS right here in Greenwood. Sheriff Tony Davis, thank you so much for taking the time from your busy schedule to come out and talk to us here this morning. Always a pleasure to have you sit down with us on the show.
Well, thank you, Ann, and I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I hope their New Year is very prosperous and productive.
Absolutely. We all need that. Thank you so much, Sheriff Tony Davis. This is WCRS right here in Greenwood. Bye-bye, everybody.